Yeah, someone just linked me to it, and is it YouTube or is it a Twitch clip? It's a YouTube one, right? 1 second, let me just make sure I've got the right window on. Wait 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay. Someone sent the link. It got crossed out, but we'll watch it. All right, you guys. So this game is really important, so I'm going to go over it. So we start off. It was d4 knight f6, c4 e6, g3 d5, and now I played knight to f3 here. He played d takes c4, bishop g2, c6 a4. This was a line that he normally plays against the Catalan. Of course, David Anton being from Spain, I felt very appropriate to play the opening of the country against him. So anyway, bishop b4, bishop d2, a5, queen c1. This is all pretty normal, you guys. This has been known before. David Anton himself has had games with this. He had a game with bishop b4, a b4, queen c4 against Ivan Cheparinov in a previous event over the board. So I was familiar with this idea, and I decided to play queen c4 here, something a little bit different, a little bit off the beaten path. Playing the Catalan against a Madrid guy. Exactly, why not? So knight d2, b6. I played queen to b3 here. Yes, okay, you guys, relax. We don't need to get into that. Anyway, I played queen b3.
Subscribed. Check Anish's interview.
Why don't Levy and Anna thank supporters by name while you're out? I think that's because they're focused on the broadcast, you guys. But again, big shout out. I will say thank you to everybody who has subbed during these events, during the commentary, during the broadcast. Thank you so much. So appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so b6. The idea is if white tries to castle the king here, there's bishop a6, hitting the queen and winning the pawn on e2. Once the queen moves away, you can't take the pawn on c6 because it's still guarded by a knight. So therefore, I play a very quiet move. I move my queen out of the line of fire, and I also try to put pressure on these very brittle pawns. Their idea is with knight e5 to hit this one. I can also go knight c4 to hit both b6 and a5 here. So I play knight c4 here again, trying to target the juicer. If black takes it, black has problems moving this knight because it's sort of glued to the pawn on c6, and I'm going to go knight e5, and this Catalan bishop on g2 is really going to cause black a lot of problems here. So David Anton goes knight d7. I play knight e5 again. In the Catalan defense, what you really want to do is you want to create this this nest, and then you want to use the sniper on g2 to target the pawn or the rook on a8 here. So now rook c8 was played by David Anton. I played knight d6, and we played all these moves very quickly, you guys. So I was not very happy about this because I thought I was playing something a little bit unknown. Maybe I could surprise David Anton. And at this point, this is where he started thinking for the first time. And this is one thing that's really worth noting, which is that this game, I think, really highlights the difference between classical chess, the games which can go up to 6 hours, and rapid chess and blitz chess. Because in a classical game, I can tell you what happened here. The thought process would be much the same as this game as it was in the game for David Anton. And I don't know for sure that he thought this way, but I'm pretty sure. Where we both had 15 minutes. We had both been moving instantly up to this moment. Actually, we'd gained time, so I think we were at 16 minutes. And so the first thought is, okay, so David Anton played rook c8. So obviously this was still his preparation. That's the closest thing in chess that we have to a tell. So I played knight to d6 here, and now David Anton started thinking. And I think what happened is this: David Anton before the game had clearly looked at knight takes c6 because he had played he had prepared rook c8. So he'd looked at this knight c6 move, and after takes queen c4 knight b8, black is completely fine. This is very well known, or not known, but he clearly had prepared this based on the fact of how quickly he played rook c8. But the problem is when I played knight d6 here, David Anton started thinking, and he ended up thinking for over 10 minutes. And this is why I know that he had not looked at this move, because rook c8 he played so quickly that he couldn't have just played it on the fly. And so after knight d6, the problem is I think David Anton probably first is like, wait a second, knight d6, I haven't looked at this move. This is not my preparation, so this looks like such an obvious move. What can be wrong with it? Whoa, thank you to Tribeca Castle for the 25 gifted subs. Thank you so much, Tribeca Castle. Hope everything is well back home in New York and in Tribeca. So thank you for the 25 gifted subs. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. So yeah, so I played knight d6, and David Anton thought for a long time. So the thought process was, okay, rook c7 looks like an obvious move. Just move the rook out of the lane. It's not under attack from the knight. But then after knight takes c6, your queen is kind of trapped here. The horses hold all the squares. Queen can't go to e8 or c8. Can't go to e7. It can't go to b8. The only square that's open for the queen is a8. But after queen e8, the queen gets fossilized. You go knight e7 check. hit the king, open the diagonal, and after king h8 you take the queen, black takes back, and you have the very beautiful knight takes f7, which is checkmate. King has no squares, it's completely boxed in the corner here, and this is GG's. So this is a classic 2-horse checkmate. And so the thing is, so David Anton, he probably thought for a minute, he saw rook c7, knight c6. Now the problem is, if you don't see that after rook takes c6, bishop c6, knight b8 is a move where you hit the bishop and knight at the same time, you're never going to go for this, because you'll see very quickly that after queen c7, white just takes. If you take the knight, I just come here and I have an extra rook and I'm going to castle my king next move. And if you take the bishop, I go knight here, and even though you get a diagonal, it's not enough. You're still down a rook for a bishop, and it's completely lost. So the problem is that I think David Anton at this moment in time, he probably spent like the first minute and a half, 2 minutes thinking about rook c7, knight c6. But the problem is, I think when he didn't see the idea with knight b8, then he started thinking, well, wait a second, that rook c7 is just a bad move, I can't play it. So then you start thinking about it from the standpoint of candidate moves. What other options do I have? Which is why I think when he saw rook c7, he missed this knight b8 idea. He thought rook c7, knight c6, I'm just lost. So then he ends up playing knight e5 after a 10-minute think, and after playing knight e5 d e5, the position is already close to loss. As you guys can see, it's plus 1.6. It's really bad for black. Now what I'm going to add you guys, this was a rapid game, so the clock is ticking, he's getting low on time, he feels a lot of pressure. If this was a classical game when we blitz out 15 moves, at this point in time, David Anton, you start the game 2 hours, he would have like 2 hours and 5 minutes. So or 2 hours and 1 minute, whatever it is. So he'd be able to, you know, he'd have his temporary panic for like a minute or two, but then he'd be able to relax, get a coffee, think for like 10 or 15 minutes, and eventually he'd realize that knight takes e5 is bad, and he'd figure out there's got to be a reason that rook c7 is fine, and he would have been fine. He would have found rook c7. I would say with 95% certainty he would have found it. But in a rapid game where the time is ticking down and you don't see the tactic right away, you can't really go back and look at something again. So that's the that's what I would say in regards to it. 50-minute thinking. Well, that's the difference between rapid chess, blitz chess, and classical chess. In rapid and blitz, you kind of have time to think, but you have to pick those moments and make the right decisions. And very oftentimes, your intuition is good, but you're not always intuitively going to figure out what the move is. And that's why blitz and rapid are so much more exciting. Totally, obviously. But I'm giving you guys an example of the difference between classical chess and, say, rapid chess or blitz chess. I did not fall asleep during the wait, no, but I knew that when David Anton started thinking for longer and longer, the less likely it became that he would play rook c7. So he took the knight, which is a big mistake. He moves the rooks. Of course, his knight's under attack, but if he moves the knight, he just loses a rook for a knight, and this is completely winning for white. Nice mistake today against Carlsen, thanks. So he played rook b8, and now I just take the free juicer. Again, he can't go up here because I wouldn't take the knight because then he takes my knight, but I can very simply just eat the free juicer on b6, and now the whole queenside starts to collapse for black here. So that's why he plays rook b8, but now he loses this juicer. Again, this is kind of the whole point of the theme, is that black flings his pawns ahead, but he creates a lot of weaknesses. So here I take the pawn, and now after knight d7, I go queen e3. I was very pleased that I found this move while he was thinking, because it's a logical move, supports the pawn. I could have taken the knight too, but it just makes a lot of sense. And now he just loses his mind and takes. Again, at this point, David Anton was already down to like 5 minutes. It's a very unhappy position.
the Great donated $4.20. Great games today, very fun to watch.
Thank you, appreciate it. My microphone is not broken, you guys. My microphone is pretty good. I think it's good. Obviously, I'm at home. I'm not able to go to the facility and stream my usual setup. So there might be some issues with the microphone, but at any rate, it is what it is. We have to make do with it. Yeah, the microphone is good. Thanks. All right. Anyway, as I was saying, so I play queen e3. Now he takes. The problem again, he can go here, but after castles.
Subscribed. I went from noob to 1300 Indiana 4 months.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you to Chase, appreciate it. Thank you to Kulix for the 420 as well. Thank you to Complex Simpler for the 11 and Jan Kupslar for the 2. So basically, the problem here is that black's just down a pawn. Like, he's just down a clean pawn. I have a jumbo horse, this great outpost on d6 where the knight can't be removed. And I'll just move the bishop and put my rooks in the center, and the jumbo horse is going to rule the day.
Just subscribed. Hi.
So instead, David Anton takes. And the funny thing is, during the game, because David Anton was thinking a long time, I'm using the same microphone that I use at work, you guys. So thank you for that. Seriously, next person to say that is probably going to get banned. All right, so queen c7, I go bishop f3, rook d8. I have to go here because otherwise I lose the knight. The only squares I can go to are knight c4, knight f7. Now I saw knight f7 during the game, but I thought like after rook f7 at the very least I'm up a juicer. But then the more I thought, I saw that I could go rook d1, rook d7, and now I have this beautiful tactic with castles. Rook d8 trying to double stack. If black tries to play a waiting move, I don't know, like this kind of move, I just go rook here, rook d8, rook d1, and I get my triple to defend the horse, and I'm just up a clean horse here at this point. All right, so queen b8, rook d2, and I do my double stack, and it's just completely winning for me. So he goes rook d8, but now I have a very beautiful tactic here where I go knight takes f7, and the problem is if black plays rook takes rook, I take the queen for free on c7. If black takes the knight with the king, we trade the queens, but then he loses the rook at the end of the board. And if black does what he does in the game, which is what David Anton played, queen takes queen, I play rook takes rook, and my rook holds the knight, and I'm forking the queen and the rook at the same time, and it's completely winning. So he goes queen b2, I go knight d8, and now the game is basically over. Essentially I have 2 rooks and a knight for a lone queen, and black's not even really getting this pawn. Combine that with the weak king, which can easily be attacked, and it's just game over. So he plays bishop e2, we trade, and I go rook d6 here, h5, knight e6, h4, knight g5, trying to create a checkmate pattern here. Knight holds the 2 squares, king can't run out. He goes g6, I just take, check, knight f4, and now I go rook c1, and that's game over. Black can't really stop the ladder checkmate here with the rook coming down and checking the king. If you go over to g7, it's the same thing. I make a check. Obviously, if you go to the back rank, it's the classic ladder. And if you go up to h6, I just eat the juicer on g6, and checkmates the knight, holds the rook, and prevents the king from going to h5, and the rook holds the h7 square. So it's game over. So this was the first game of the day against David Anton. Very smooth win. Didn't really have to think a lot. Very little stress, and it was a great way to start. All right, so let's move to the second game between myself and Magnus. Let me rotate this to my point of view. So I wasn't really sure what Magnus was going to do here in this opening game, because he had played a very long game before against Alexander Grischuk, and he wasn't able to win in this very long end game. I wanted to draw. Well, I just want to be solid. I thought that if I got a draw here, I would definitely qualify.
Just subscribed. Great stream. Thanks for helping me get better at chess.
All right, so there isn't much that I really want to add. There isn't much that I really want to add to this game. I'll just start from somewhere around here. I thought I played this game pretty well in this middle game after I misplayed in the opening. Yeah, I blundered to a tactic, but I felt that in the opening I didn't remember how to make the draw right off, so I kind of drifted a little, and I was very happy with the way that I played this middle game, because as you can see, for much of this middle game, it's giving white an advantage, and I thought the way that I played was very good. h5, a good move to stop g4, knight d3, bishop c8, and everything I thought was good here. Maybe here I should have just taken the pawn, and after takes knight d6, again, I was worried about an a6 lever with rook c6 here, removing the pawn, and it feels a little bit unpleasant. Computer obviously doesn't care at all, but as a human it looks a little bit unhappy. You feel a little bit iffy. So basically this game was completely fine. I was very happy with my play, and now here I played b5, which I think is insane. If I go rook c8 here, I think this should just be a pretty routine draw, but I did b5, which I think was still okay. Now he did this, he takes, and this is where unfortunately I started going wrong.
20 cents. Fellow Belgians, tune in tomorrow to watch the Belgian blunderer dominate at 3 p.m. Also have a good one, Marcus. Keck W.
Thank you. But the problem was at this point, and this is why kind of it went wrong, is first of all I saw a6, rook b5 takes a6. Originally I thought I could play a6, but then I saw this in a split second. It's like it must be bad, although oh, this is just a draw. Okay, I'm bad at chess. So I saw a6, but I thought rook b5 was winning, so then I wanted to go bishop c4. Now the problem is I played bishop c4 too quickly, and the reason that this was bad is I should have just gone bishop c6 here, and after bishop c6 we're going to be trading bishops into an endgame, which will be rook and pawns. Should be a pretty routine draw, very limited danger. But the problem is when I played bishop c4 and he went rook b7, I had already calculated this in my head that I just go a6 and I bring the king over and I'm just completely fine. But the problem was at this point I saw rook c7 and I kind of panicked. So this sort of set the trend the wrong way, because rook d8 is still completely fine. It should be a draw, but mentally I was already a little bit shaken because I had blundered this obvious tactic. So I ended up in this endgame that I didn't really want to be in. And now he went here, and I should have just played bishop d5, and I'm guessing that I end up down a pawn here somehow. Probably takes some a6, and probably check here, and this, and I guess I can go here and here, and this should be a draw. Actually, just check here and king f4. But again, at this point I was already a little bit shaken because of what I had overlooked, which you could call it nerves, whatever. I think it was nerves. It wasn't nerves. It was just like I sort of was like, oh man, I just blundered a tactic. I better double look and be very careful. His eating during the game, I actually didn't see him eating. One thing that I will say, you guys, as far as these games go, is you have TeamViewer with the window where you can see your opponent, but generally speaking, you have to toggle. You can't have it like open in the background. So because you have to toggle, like you lose time when you do that. So every so often I do pop it open to look, but I wasn't looking consistently throughout the game. So now here I played a check, which is probably not best, and he went here, and this is where I made the fateful blunder. I basically spent, I think, a minute and a half trying to figure out which square I wanted to go with the bishop, because both squares look logical. And the problem is when I went bishop, when I was considering bishop d5, I thought here c4 and my pawn is in time, so like a6, c3, a7, I can just take, and this should be a draw. Or I mean, you see it is a draw. So this is originally what I saw. So when I calculated that out to being a draw, then I spent a little time looking at like rook c5, and I figured, I mean, this has to be a draw with the two connected outside pawns. And so then I'm like, okay, so bishop d5 is fine. So what about bishop d3? But then I saw bishop d3 and I thought, well, he goes rook c6 check, and when I go back, he can still take the pawn, and he hits the pawn on g5, and maybe by virtue of that, the pawn on h4 as well. So basically, actually, you guys, just to be clear, no, it's not TeamViewer. It's Microsoft Teams for video. For the screen share, they use Zoom. So for chat and for the chat when the arbiters need to communicate something, and for the screen share, they use Zoom. For the actual video, they use Microsoft Teams. That's how they do it, everybody. All right, so as I was saying, I basically was like, okay, well, both moves look fine, but then I'm like, okay, bishop d3 allows a check, so then I can just go here and I stop the check and I force an endgame anyway. Unfortunately, after rook d7, king e6, rook d8, I end up losing this endgame by one tempo. So I go c4, a6, c3, and unfortunately, after rook d5, I end up losing by one tempo because after takes, here, a7, c2, white queens, white makes a queen, and it's a check on the king before I can queen and hit the king on g1. So this obviously was very disappointing. I was not happy about this, but again, because I had won that first game against David Anton, I had put myself in a good position where even though I lost this game, I still had good chances. All right, so let's move on to the third game, which was against Mr. Anish Giri. So in this third and final game of the day, the 11th round, I knew my situation. I felt that if I lost the game, I'd probably qualify, but I finished like 7th or 8th, so I'm probably in no matter what. But again, you don't really want to be in a situation where you need certain other results to go right. At the same time, I also knew that Anish had to win the game to qualify. Now apparently Anish only needed to draw because Levon Aronian lost his game against David Anton Guijarro, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave beat Alexander Grishuk. So in retrospect, the draw was good enough for Anish, but before the game, and when you look at those pairings, very hard to believe that Maxime will beat Grishuk with black and Levon will lose with white as well. All right, so e4, c5. I knew Anish would play this again without getting too specific about the game. There are a lot of other openings Anish could play, but it's all about picking an opening that keeps the most pieces on the board. Okay, so I played g3, very solid. Again, I fianchetto the bishop to g2 here on the diagonal. He goes knight c6, bishop g2, knight f6, d3, d5, knight d2, and we actually end up transposing into a King's Indian attack. Now this setup can come out of many different orders, but it is something that Bobby Fischer really liked to play a lot in the old days. Do you have a TSM jersey or similar you'd be allowed to wear during the tournament? I do. But the thing is, they try to say you need to be more formal about it, so I'm just being more formal in general. That's what I would say. So anyway, I castle, he castles. I play rook e1, h6, and now I play c3, and Anish goes b5 again. All the pieces are on the board, but one thing that I would note is probably if this was just a regular blitz game, I would go e5, knight d7, knight f1, and then you play h4, knight h2, knight g4, the bishop f4, queen d2, and you try to sack on h6. But again, this was a situation where I assumed I'm in, if I lose, even if I lose the game. But you don't really want to put yourself in that situation. So I thought, you know what, let's be practical, let's open up the position, try to simplify it so that we make it so it's easier to control, and it's more likely that it will be a draw, and there won't be double-edged counterplay. So I take knight d5, I play a4, try to again rip open the queen side here. Black cannot play a6 to keep the pawns intact, because after takes you can't take the pawn because you would lose the rook on a8. And so Anish goes b4 here. Again, also you can't go bishop a6 either, because then I take and I go c4, and your bishop and your knight get forked. So b4, I go c4. Again, I want to open up the diagonal for this long bishop here. Knight c7, knight b3, great square for the horse. It targets the pawn on c5. It also supports a push in the center to open up the diagonal for this bishop. So he goes bishop b7, I play here. Again, double attack on the pawn. Anish plays knight a6 to hold the glue, and now I go d4, trying again to rip open the center part of the board and activate my bishop. So here Anish took the pawn, I took back, he played queen c8, and now here I felt that I played a move that was not ideal. I played queen e2, and I played this after quite a long think, and as you see, the evaluation shoots way down here. Did I consider queen f3? Someone asked. I thought after knight d4, queen b7, knight b3, I was just losing. I don't know. Oh, I have queen e7. Oh, am I just bad at chess? Wait, am I just, oh, sorry about that. Am I just bad at chess? Ah, he can take first. I actually didn't really calculate this. Knight b3, and I take, yeah, and black's still better. Black, I mean, I have two ops here, combined with some nice diagonals, but it's probably better for black. But I've only looked very briefly, and then I saw queen e2, and I thought, you know what, if I get this bishop here, it's really good. This is like a classic wooden shield. The bishop on d4 holds everything here. He trades, he goes here. I went queen f3. Again, I wanted to cut the diagonal so there are no checks against my king. Like queen b7 is not an idea, queen c6 isn't an idea, and just my bishop on d4, it's awesome here. It just holds everything. So now Anish plays queen takes pawn, which is a big mistake, by the way. He should not have done this, but he played it fast, and I think at this point Anish felt, you know what, I'm worse in this game, I have to try to win, so I need to create counterplay. Objectively, I think he probably should have played bishop c5 or knight c5, tried to make a draw, but instead he took, and now after rook c1, queen d5, trade, rook c6, this knight is very sad. The bishop dominates it, the rook dominates it, it has no way to jump into the game. It really wants to go to the square on c5 or the square on c7. And so he goes knight b8, but now after rook c8, he has to block again. If he goes king h7, I think I can just go rook c1, and this knight and this rook in the corner are really sad. It's very sad here. XQC had a similar bishop in his outro chess game. Steven, the wooden shield comes directly from the man, the myth, the legend, Felix Longgel himself. So yeah, it's from him to start with. So rook d8, I play rook c1. Again, I want to trade. Where am I? Russia? I'm in California, but I'm not at the TSM facility because again they shut it down for the near future. Okay, so he goes knight d7. We trade. I go rook c7, rook d8 again. Black has to save either the knight or the bishop. So I take the pawn. This, by the way, was a terrible move. I should have just taken with the bishop. And basically it's bye-bye birdie here because black can try bishop f6, but I just go a5, a6, and after bishop e5, rook b7, I'm going to move the bishop, push the pawn, and make a queen at the end of the board, and it's just a very easy, very smooth win. Instead I did this, and now after bishop f6, it's still winning, but it's not as clear-cut as it could have been. So I play a5, we trade, I go a6. Again, the horse doesn't matter. If you can get a pawn to the end of the board, the 8th rank, it becomes a queen, and you win the game. So takes, I go check, and now a7. Again, I'm going to move the rook and make a check. If black moves the king, I just move my rook and make a queen. And when Anish goes knight c6, he would love to take this pawn next move, but I'm just in time because I go here, I make the check on the king, and then the pawn promotes and becomes a queen. So knight d8, I go queen a7, rook d5, queen b6, and we reach this critical moment right here. And this is, as I was talking about earlier when I was on with Levy and Anna, this is a critical moment where I think if Anish had been able to see the other games, if he had been able to see Levon's position and Maxime's position, I think he would have gotten a second wind, and he would have really buckled down and tried to make a draw here. But the problem is he could only play his own game and only this one game that we're playing, and so he still was in the mode that he thought he had to win the game. Now I think
Tank underscore donated $4.20. Tell Anish he better get the PayPal payment in on time next tournament.
Thank you for the 420 dunk take. So he should have gone f6 and e5, and I don't know, maybe this is still winning for white long term, but he would have, I think he would have been able to find, he would have been able to buckle down and get that inspiration, that motivation, if he had seen the other positions, because in the game he felt he had to win, understandably so. And so he trades, he goes here, and now I go here and b4, and the problem is now once I break the once he can't defend this square, the queen and the pawn are going to dominate the rook and the knight, and I'm just going to push the pawn down the board like I did with the a pawn, by the way. And it's just awesome. It should just be winning for white here. So now it plays rook d4, I go b5, rook g4, king f1, queen c6. Again, important to pin the knight to the king so I can keep pushing the pawn up the board. Okay, so king g5, I go b6 here, knight f4. Last gasp for Anish, trying to create a checkmate here with rook b1 because the knight holds the two escape squares. So I just quietly scoot the king into the corner, and I basically say, you know what, I'm going to make a second queen with this pawn, and you're not going to be able to stop it, even if you win this pawn at f2. But it's just game over. Same mate, yeah, totally. So rook b1, king h2, knight e6, and now I go queen e4. Important move because this is all about geometry. The king is in the open. So black takes the pawn on b6, I go queen here, and I check the king, but I also hit the rook, and I win the rook. So Anish goes here, I push the pawn, and now Anish blunders. He had very little time. He plays knight d8. Again, position is close to loss. If black tries like king f6 here, I just go queen c6 and queen c8, and again the knight can't get back in time to sacrifice itself, so I make a second queen. And Anish can struggle on here, but realistically a queen is better than a knight and 3 pawns. 9 is better than 6, and it's just winning. So anyway, b7, knight d8, now I go b8. And by the way, you guys, since I didn't have auto promote to a queen on, I actually under promoted it to a rook. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I did. And here Anish resigned because after rook takes rook, I take the pawn, and again it's a check on the king, and I win the rook on b8 here. And that's GG's. So I won this final game against Anish, guaranteed my spot in the naughty promotion, yeah, guaranteed my spot in the quarterfinals, where I will be playing, I believe, against Levon Aronian tomorrow. I believe it is a best of 2 if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure on that. Let me make sure. Yeah, okay, so it's best of 2. So yeah, so I play Levon tomorrow, starting again at 6 a.m. I believe we play a 4-game match. Chess24 was mad at that. Wait, Chess24 got mad that I made a rook. Okay. Anyway, yeah, good one. All right, so I won the game. I finished 3rd. I believe if I win against Levon, I play Wesley, and then potentially in the final I play against Magnus. At any rate, it's pretty good. We finished the way I wanted to, make it in the top 8, which is the only thing that matters. No, I wasn't doing a trigger Anish. So that's that. Someone have a link to the Anish to Anish. Just if someone has a link. Does somebody have a link? Yeah, someone just linked me to it. And is it YouTube or is it a Twitch clip? It's a YouTube one, right? One second, let me just make sure I've got the right window on. Wait 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right, okay. Someone sent the link. It got crossed out, but we'll watch it.
Sort of you don't want to give away all your good openings now in this tournament, heading into the candidates sometime in 2021. Have you tried to experiment a little bit so far in this tournament?
Well, I've been experimenting for a while now, but I mean, I have not yet a good idea of what I will play in the candidates. So I mean, I have an idea, but now I have many ideas that I can use, and we'll see what happens in the actual candidates in terms of openings.
Subscribed. Thanks,
and we are actually also joined now by Anish Giri, 2 very different destinies here in the Airthings Masters. Maxim just about making it to the quarterfinals. Anish, unfortunately, we're not going to see you play quarterfinals. How are you after that final game?
Yeah, no, I didn't expect Maxim will make it, actually. I mean, I don't even know how he finished against Rajabov, but I think he was lost from the opening there. So I thought he was doing very badly, but he mounted a great comeback. And I'm quite concerned. I think maybe draw would have been also good for me in the last round then. But it didn't occur to me at all. I was sure I'm in a must-win situation. So, yeah, I didn't really get anywhere. The opening went really badly.
And I want to ask both of you, because yesterday, okay, we had 21 out of 24 games ending in draws. How was the mentality different going into to today when, you know, both of you and many players had to start winning? I'll start with you, Maxim.
Yeah, honestly, I just wanted to play chess from the start. And in the first 2 days, I mean, the results were not so great, but I had lots of opportunities. So, I mean, to be honest, I played so badly. So, like, I had fighting games at least because, well, Anish was in a must-win against me, and then I was white, and then I don't know how, but I got chances against Sasha. But yeah, my level of play was terrible, so I need to adjust that starting tomorrow.
How about you, Anish? We've been so entertained with seeing you, maybe more than we used to, seeing you really fight for wins in this tournament.
No, actually, yeah, I was in a tough spot. I think the format is not very good. I mean, first you make 8 players qualify for 12 spots, and then you complain every day about the draws from players. It's not very, I mean, it's either one or the other. And for me, I was not in the luxury position of playing it safe, so I had to go all out today, even in the last round with the black pieces as well. So yeah, I had to fight for my life, but unfortunately it didn't really work out. I think the opening in the last game went really badly, and the position I got was very, very bad. Actually, if I would have had a controlled game, then maybe even a draw would have been enough. I didn't count the tie breaks, but I've beaten Maxime and also Anton, so maybe I would have made it even. I don't know. I have to see. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I was not one of the people who could afford to just sit and wait. But on the other hand, it's quite impressive. For example, Wesley's playing these events. I mean, it's so incredibly good, and it's as though you either just make a draw with him from the get-go, or if you don't, you get punished severely. So yeah, he managed to play a very, very good event again, and I mean, such results are inspiring. I mean, mostly, you know, if you play it safe in too many games, then you start feeling bad about yourself, and then playing badly eventually. But some players, in particular Wesley and also Hikaru, they don't feel bad at all, and you know, if they play for a draw, they make it. If they play for a win, they also win. So what can you do?
And well, yes, David.
Yeah, I mean, commiserations, Anish. We were greatly entertained by your games today. I just wanted to ask about your New Year's resolutions for 2021 and your goals in chess.
Wow, I didn't think of it like that, but it's true. It's a good moment to think about it. And the only good thing about being knocked out here early is that I have a little more time now to prepare for my next tournament
Hikaru
and to think about life in general. And yeah, I mean, I need to calm down a bit after today's games. Other than that, you know, it's always the same. I'm a professional chess player. I focus on my chess so much, and when it comes to New Year's resolutions, it's also usually something to do with chess. I just try to improve my game and can get better every time. Yeah, hopefully. Especially, I'm looking forward to my next tournament. It's going to be hopefully Vaikansei tournament. It's a live event in the Netherlands. You know, it's a tough time to host an event, but well, it's something different. You know, we are used now to playing online, which are tremendous events that you guys are hosting here. But yeah, I'm looking forward also to see how the over-the-board event will pan out.
Yeah, and how much holiday do you give yourself after an event such as this, to both of you?
Well, it depends how much time I get between one event and the other one.
Mm-hmm. So you don't go, like for me, I give myself 1 day off, or maybe 2 days off. You just...
Well, technically, I mean, if I make it to the final, I will have to go to Vaikansei very soon after because of the quarantine there. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, like if I have a week off, of course, I will generally take a few days off before.
Yeah, I think Maxime is pretty annoyed here. I agree.
To chess activity.
I think he's very annoyed.
Lots of things I can do in between the chess.
But no time for you to take a break now, Maxime, because tomorrow quarterfinals start and you will face Wesley. So how will you make sure that he just doesn't go for those super quick draws in the beginning there?
Well, I don't know exactly. I just need to, refocus on my chess, play better, be in better shape because today I was in actual awful shape. and plundering everything. So, I'll take the gift of qualifying, but I know that I cannot afford to play like this against Wesley.
You're smiling, Anish.
Subscribe.
No, I mean, the problem is not the draws. The problem is the losses. You have it all wrong.
Is that it? Okay.
That's it.
Well, Anish, can we have your expert tip for the Airthings Masters? Who do you think will do the best here?
It's all these players are so good. I mean, Magnus and Wesley. Magnus and Hikaru were always known to be good. And this year, lately Wesley got a lot more opportunities. He didn't get too many invites in the first tour, but now in the second one he got, and he's showing great play. I mean, these three guys, I think, are head and shoulders above. I mean, no offense to Maxim, who is also a great player. So far, they've proven, at least so far, they've proven they've played very high quality chess as well, all three of them. And these three are favorites.
Oh my god!
But everybody qualified, and also everybody who was invited are very good. And Maxim, of course, if he finds his form, is a tremendous player. Also, the Rajabov can be very, very robust and strong. And in these close matches, he might also do very well. So we'll see.
All right.
Anish, one final question. We know that you've recently released a video course for Chessable on the Najdorf, and we've discovered it's Kaya's favorite opening. Any tips for anyone out there on learning the opening?
It's not only Kaya's favorite. Not only Kaya's favorite opening. It's a great opening that many people like and play, because it's a very fighting opening and offers you lots of chances. And Maxim actually played it all his life. Now that finally my course is out and he can finally learn to play Najdorf the right way, he switched to this other opening called the Classical Sicilian, which is of course much worse. But for Kaya, I think I'm not sure. I think some of the variations are going to be a little too deep for Kaya, because it's also a repertoire that I try to.
They might be also a bit too deep for me.
Yes. Maxim, for sure.
Thank you, Maxim.
Yes. But in general, I try to make it something that can be also valid for players of a high level. So but it's fun. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Thank you so much. Now, both of you, thank you so much, Anish, for joining us, and we wish you good luck in the next tournament. And Maxim, we wish you good luck when the quarterfinals start tomorrow. Thank you so much, both of you.
Yeah, thank you.